Earlier on, we will be discussing with them the issue of goals into 2018. But first of all, I really want to hear the thoughts, especially from Susan, since she's a psychologist, about this specific accident. Ladies, thank you so much for making time this morning. We've had to start the show on yet another sad note, accidents that have been happening throughout December as Kenyans are traveling to and fro for their Christmas holidays. Susan, allow me to start with you. This is quite some sad news that is coming through. For the families and friends of those people who are watching and will later come to find out that maybe some of their loved ones were part of that trailer, or rather this accident that has occurred, where does one begin as we're crossing into a new year?
Zinzi, this is quite difficult, not only for the families, but for the country at large, because we've had several accidents. And sometimes you think, if, like when the head of state said that these are lives you're carrying. I thought maybe Kenyans would take it seriously and do something about it. But my observation also is that most of the accidents in the country are caused.
Yes.
They don't happen. Yes. So you get family members getting very, very angry. You get the public getting very angry. And I know as we are seated here, we're also asking ourselves what's happening. I know some of the family members may not be aware. Probably their loved ones were in that bus.
Right.
So the first thing that happens is the shock. Some it could be numbing. Some it could be, again, the same spot. So getting very rational about so many things. And some even saying, what a way to start the new year.
Exactly.
Because today is just, we are about 15 hours to 2018. So the family members, one I would say is that I know when you're shocked, sometimes you do not define how you behave. So you might find some screaming, some crying, some maybe even blaming and cursing. Let it be. And this is whereby I call upon counselors, because right now I think we have counselors across the country. Like the Kenya Counseling Psychological Association has counselors everywhere. And that is Eldoret. So I would like actually also to ask the coordinator of the Rift Valley region, the counselor in charge, to get the counselors who are near there, so that they can be able to assist even the people who are around there. That area, so many accidents, there's what is called community trauma. In fact, the people who live there now need psychological debriefing. Yes. They need psychological support. That's why you are seeing Kenyans even trying to have prayers around the accident scenes. But this is telling you people are terrified. And so if others who are not near there are terrified, what about the ones who are receiving this information firsthand? I know Red Cross also tries in a very big way, but I want to tell them at this particular moment, it is important to involve the psychologists, the counselors on the ground, because when you stabilize somebody's mind, that you can almost take them back to the area where they were before that tragedy happened. You're helping them to move on. But when you just rescue, when you just take them to the hospital, in fact, in most times, Red Cross work stops at the hospital.
Right. We tend to forget the psychological aspect of it.
And if you do not help them psychologically, let me tell you, Zinzi, so many Kenyans are sick out of tragic events that have happened, and they have not been helped to move on psychologically. So for me, I would also ask counselors come out. I know it's been difficult for counselors in this country because they have never been recognized. Despite the act having been passed in 2014, there is no board. So nobody sits somewhere to authorize or to even direct and say, you can do ABCD. So they do it out of their heart. Right. But it's the high time the government knows we are getting a sick nation day in, day out. And these accidents, as much as we are saying, everybody is aware that that
Naivasha, yes.
Maybe they also get there because they are phobic. You don't coordinate very well.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you find more accidents happening. But it's because the psychological state of people, the drivers, the passengers, because if you're a passenger also, and you see, like we were just discussing with Frida here, you're talking of 34 people now, others injured, you're getting a figure of 48. What was the capacity of this bus, right? What about the passengers? Because passengers who are also psychologically stable, they also make decisions. Even if it's late, I have seen buses, because I've ever used buses along that route to Rwanda. I said one time, I just want to use the road. You find they come in and they're standing in the buses. Yes, are they aware? And this is where, again, I'll go down and say, those of us who can show how you can do grassroots kind of mobilization of resources. Personally, I talk about the psychological mobilization. When we do have community counselors or community health workers who are empowered, they are the ones who reach out. They are the ones who educate people. Do not board a bus if it is already parked.
Caroline Kaithumu, you're a life coach, and some of the people who will come today to realize that my loved ones are part of that accident that has happened this morning.
Yeah.
Where do they even get the strength to go into the new year? Where does one even start? Yeah. And I'm glad that Susan really highlighted that we normally just do the rescue operation, and we forget the psychology part of it.
Yeah, I mean it's very serious. We are in really dire need of psychological help in this country, because you find that people still hurt the same way they hurt the first day, 10 years down the line, because nobody took care of their psychological needs. Nobody helped them deal with the trauma. So today there are so many people who are traumatized, and we are all actually traumatized on different levels. It's like a storm. There's somebody at the eye of the storm, and then there are people around, and maybe you and me are somewhere a bit of a distance away from the storm, but we are still affected equally. One of the things that I've noticed that makes things worse is social media.
Right.
Because you will, in a few hours, start seeing images of the accident scene. You'll start seeing people forwarding actual bodies on the road. It becomes very gross, because it's like we are asleep. We are just doing things like we are sleepwalking, you know?
And Caroline, that's how some people end up finding that their loved ones have perished.
Exactly.
Because you saw it on social media.
Exactly. And then the trauma increases further, because, as I was saying, you're a certain distance away from the storm, but if that image hits your inbox or hits your WhatsApp, you get further traumatized, even if this was not your relative. So that is the kind of trauma we are dealing with just one single accident.
Right.
So you can imagine the many accidents that we've been seeing. And the other thing is that as a country, as humanity, we have learned to suppress our feelings, our emotions. So there are people whose relatives have passed today, but they will be told, be strong. Be strong for your siblings. Be strong, and they will suppress it. And as a life coach, I normally like to deal with the energy body. That is where you store all your experiences, all your emotions, all your traumas, and you become this heavily laden person. And that's why we are even seeing diseases manifesting in this country.
Frida Winger, you are the founder of Passion Profit. This, from an economic point of view, the road accidents, we just see it as not just accidents, but there is an economic aspect of it. At the end of the day, we are losing people, generations, because a lot of them are still children and young people, so they are working class people that go. And I love what Susan had also said. You see a matatu is full or a bus, and you still want to clinch into it. And it's because the conductor or the matatu driver want to make an extra bucks. What are your thoughts on this?
Wow. Just to write on what the two of them have said, one of the things is, as a nation, yes, we are hurting. Yes, there's so many traumas going on. We've just finished a long election saga. And then around the holidays, November, December, we always hear about accidents.
Right.
So I think it's time that we really get in touch with what is happening in our nation from an individual level, even from as we go on to a national level. But from an individual level, if I'm planning to travel, what are the precautions I need to take, knowing that this is the kind of roads we have, that this is the kind of transport that I'm going to use, and what based on my budget, what am I going to do? So when we are planning for the holiday, do we plan for the insurance? When we are planning for the holiday, do we plan what kind of transport we are going to use? And I think there's a lot of, I like that Caroline talked about media. And I think media has a big role to play in educating this country. And I know I'm on media, so I need to be nice, but...
but it's the truth.
The truth is, I think media has a big role to play in this country, whether it is social media or the TV that we watch. Because we know that we are going to have travel, and during travel there's so much going on. Why don't you have some clips of educating people what they need to do before they travel, before the holidays. Why don't we have some panelists come who have insurance? Because there's very affordable insurance in this country, and yes, there's the more expensive ones. I was just speaking to a lady who is in our network. She's called Adelaide. Her company is called Blue Wave Insurance, and they have insurance that you can pay as little as 300 bob a day, and that gives you you have some time for if you get into hospital, and you have some time for if somebody dies, God forbid, and you have like a personal accident also. But for 300 shillings, seriously. So we really need to stay away from trying to always peg things on the government, and because it's true, the government should do some things, but let's take it down to an individual level. As Frida and my children, we are going to go on holiday. What are we doing to make sure we are safe on the road? And then when we get into the bus, the government is not there.
Right.
All right? So why are we, and as a people, we are very passive. I hate to say it, but as a people, we are passive in that, because, we were just counting, because we said 30, when we sat here, it was 30. We haven't even gone, now it's at 34, and then 18 who are injured. That is probably going to go up. And I'm thinking, how many people get into this bus? So we need to be responsible. We need to say, no, imetosha, haezi here. Okay? But we are afraid. And we're afraid again because people are hurting. And people need to get where they're going. Somebody might pop up and say, "Nunua gari yako," or whatever. But I think, so we're afraid of such things. But we need to have people rising up and saying, no, this bus capacity is 20 people, no more, or you get the keys from the driver. Because we sit there helpless to these conductors and drivers, but we are the ones paying the money. So we are paying money to die. That's true. No, we need to take individual responsibility.
Right. There's something that you've mentioned, the Kenyans who are afraid and they fear, because you're kind of scared to call out the matatu conductor or the driver.
We need to stop that.
We need to stop that. And before we even dive into that, there's something that you've said at the beginning that caught my attention. Frida said that when we're planning for holidays, we plan which bus we're going to use, which hotel we're going to stay. If we're going to Mombasa, do I need a new costume? But we don't plan for emergencies. Is emergencies on our budget, right? Do you also want to just comment a little bit on that, Frida, that even as Kenyans are still going, in this new year that is coming, there's still going to be a number of holidays that we now need to start putting emergency on our list, X amount of money.
I think as a people, we have work, but we can start from somewhere. Because you notice that there are certain trends in this country. The trends of, towards the end of the year, there's going to be trauma from accidents. So why do we dig our heads in the sand and pretend we don't know? We are the ones who are going to be traveling on these roads. What are we going to do about it to keep safe? All right, because we can't just hide in our houses and be on social media posting things. So what are we going to do intentionally about that? We know elections is coming. What are we going to do intentionally to ensure that we have our life is not disrupted so much? I really think it's time that we start getting into, and I can't say it enough, that we can use media to educate people, whether it's media from an individual perspective, using my profile, my page and stuff to educate people on what we need to do. If I'm a psychologist, if I'm a life coach, if whatever kind of coach I am, as opposed, because you find when something goes wrong, then we focus on the wrongness of the thing. But we don't realize that what we focus on expands. Okay, so we need to start focusing on solutions and not just the problem. Because no matter how thick things are, there's always something to be grateful for.
And we're going to dive generally into resolutions and goals as Kenyans in this new year. But before I do that, Susan, Frida mentioned something very important, fear. We enter into a bus, but we're scared to call out. In fact, there was a time, even there was a social media trend, Toa Sauti, speak up, that was there. But we tend to shy away. If I speak up, even in the bus will then shout at me, or this matatu conductor will kick me out. Why is that? Why do we feel timid when we know it's the right thing to do?
It's learned helplessness of Kenyans. And that's why I'm saying we need to go to the grassroots. It does not matter how much we are doing at the top. What are we doing to the masses? If you think of the pyramid, the masses are the majority. But they are the ones, even if you speak alone in a Nissan or a matatu or that bus, they will keep quiet. So you are going to be terrorized alone. So you find you're more fearful of speaking. So you keep quiet. And I want to say, as a country, and this one I say without missing my words, that we are very, very indisciplined.
True.
I want to say so. Because a country where there is structure, order, and discipline, like Rwanda, if you go to Rwanda, it's a very young country because it died totally in 1994.
Right.
Right? But go to that country. You will see if it's a pedestrian. They'll either use the footbridge, there is one, or they will use the zebra crossing. But you also find that the motorists will respect that. In this country, if you're going to use the zebra crossing, you even go running. What does that tell you? You are doing this out of fear because you know the motorist may not be disciplined.
That's right.
If you also go to a matatu, you are paying. You're paying them. So how should they treat you?
Right.
Because you're giving them bread for their family. They don't treat you like somebody who really, really deserves respect,
Right.
as somebody who is
As a
their
customer.
client. So the matatu industries, and now I see they have so many circles. I know I have been trying to approach a few where I am, you know, like the Prestige in Chania, in Thika. I'm trying to approach them and telling them, I know people see you prestige, you're prestigious, right? But can we have courtesy? Can we have one circle model in this and the rest are going to follow? Because they don't treat passengers as people who actually are paying them for the job they are doing.
Karen, would you like to comment on that, the aspect of fear from Kenyans and how
Yeah.
it's costing lives of very many Kenyans? And she
Yeah.
gave a perfect example of the footbridge. Just to add on to that, you find just even in town, typically,
Yeah?
the traffic light says red, but you will see honking from all the way behind it.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah.
Because the road is clear. So
Yeah.
why are we following traffic lights? But would you just want to comment on that
I
issue of
think
fear?
I like what she said about learning. You know, we have been conditioned to be very indisciplined
Oh, yeah.
because indiscipline is what works in this country.
Oh my God.
Because like there are so many people who come for the holiday from abroad or wherever, and they'll tell you, I cannot drive the way Kenyan drivers drive. But you drive me because you can do it, because you can hustle your way through, especially like in town. You know, so and that's what we do. We propagate it and propagate it and propagate it. Same with fear. You learn from somebody else's experience and it stays at the back of your mind and you say, I never want to be treated like that guy who was thrown out of a matatu for
Because he
complaining.
spoke up.
So you become timid because you are learning from experience. But now I think we need to come to a level where we say, what exactly do we want to be and how do we want our future to be? And as an individual, what is my value? That is the biggest question. What is my value? If I'm paying 100 bob to be driven from Thika to town, then let me get the value of that because I deserve it. I'm not doing anybody a favor because we're in a mutually beneficial relationship. So drive me properly, give me my seat, don't squeeze me with somebody else, and let us reach safely where we are going.
It's
Yeah?
called organized disorder, and
Yes.
something a lot of people come in here and say that you said.
Yeah.
But Frida, there's also, and I'm glad that we gave the example of Rwanda.
Yes.
We tend to forget that all these accidents and all this disorganization within our roads, at the end of the day, they have an economic factor on that.
Oh, yes.
Would you like to comment on that?
They do have an economic factor because people can't go to work. The traffic makes us lose time. Time is money. So we need to be, and maybe that's where the structure of the country, the structure of the nation comes into play. In terms of we have traffic lights, we have all these bodies. We have city council. They have people who watch you over the traffic lights. We have the police, traffic police. I think there are 3 different bodies who watch how we drive in this
NTSA.
country.
Yeah.
Yet there's so much chaos. Why? Let's take, for instance, the NTSC. Let's say instead of them standing on the road, we already have traffic police standing on the road. We already have Kanjo also standing on the road. I don't know why we have 3 sets of people standing on the road.
And there's still
Why
bribery.
can't we, and there's still bribery. So why can't we have one set actually going into the matatus to ensure that the matatu has it? And this is just a random thought. Because I always wonder, why do we have 3 sets of authority on the road? So one can be on the road, one can actually be in the vehicle, and then why the fines should be, we should be fined. Like in the US, I lived in the US. If a cop stops you, you give him your driver's license. He doesn't get into your car. I don't know why they get into our cars. You give him you give the license. They check your license if it's legit. What were you? You're told what your offense is. You are over speeding, and you get a ticket. And when you get your ticket, you can pay it online. And now we have M-Pesa. We can pay your ticket by M-Pesa, or you can go you can go to court and pay it.
Yeah.
If these structures could work, I think we would be more disciplined. But again, the corruption thing is just,
Exactly.
people find it easier to pay that authority figure rather than go and deal with it. But if we can come to a place where we have structures. Not that this country doesn't have structures. We are very clever people, and we have extremely good policies. It's just that the panya roots and the corruption that is crazy.
Yeah.
But I think it's time we need to make those systems work.
And you know what is sad is the fact that what Frida has said. We are very smart Kenyans, and we have these are ideas that we can start implementing. Why should we have 3 different people on the road and there's still the whole corruption aspect doing the same thing? And at the end of the day, you just give them a 50 bob and that's it. So it's our systems that are also failing us. And I'm glad that we've already touched on the issue of fear. And discipline. So allow me now to move from a bit from the accident to now general resolutions of the year. And Susan, the thing is, and I'm also a victim of this, where you write down all your goals for the year for 2017, for 2018. But it's easier said than done. Writing them and then doing them is not the difficult task. Why?
Anyway, and it's globally acknowledged that people write their resolutions. But it's important to also know that I want to take it very simple. When you talk about SMART goals, the specificity of the goals that you set. Because it's not just writing, I remember when I was in high school, I'd say, oh, it's New Year. And I would write so many, 100 of them. But in the real sense, they were not specific on what I exactly want to achieve. Some of them are not even realistic. There are things you can say, I want to be a nice girl. That's general. How nice do you want to be? Sometimes I have even had families setting goals and saying, next year, coming year, I want to be the best husband for my wife. Best, what is best? So it needs to be specific. Some of them need to be measurable, that maybe quarterly we shall be reviewing maybe our marital relationship, if it's in the family line, if it's in business again. Some businesses run. I have been a victim. And when I saw, I was like, oh, I think I really need her. Where you have a business, you have started a business, but you do not have a projection of the budget. And that should be on a monthly basis. Even the income. There are people who say, I earn so little. It's so surprising. They say that I want to increase my income. Ask them how, I don't know, but I'm telling you next year, I'm increasing my income. So you need to be specific how you're going to do that. Sometimes you find, and I want to talk about we Africans, and I don't know. Sometimes I don't like getting bitter about the colonization that we went through. But sometimes I see we have chosen, like the African Americans, to remain there. That we cannot. I believe we had a system. We had a system before we were colonized. Africans had a way of doing things. And if I come to Kenya, we also had a way of doing things. But at some point, it's like we don't know who we are at the end of the day. We don't feel we can set goals like the way a white person does. You can do it. You can do it. I have been with young people in high schools, and somebody, like I do academic advising at African Nazarene University where I lecture. And I'm given students who are on academic warning, and you're told you have 2 more warnings. If you get the 3rd one, you are expelled from the university. And I sit with them, and I ask them, do you set goals? Yes, I do. Let's see what interferes with your goal setting. And I want to say, as an individual, you are your best. I want to use best enemy, because you're the one who destroys yourself. So as an individual, you need to ask yourself, as a person, what are my weaknesses? Like for me, if I were asked, I would say, I like sympathizing a lot. So I need to work on my sympathy and put more empathy. Like the psychologists, we walk into people's shoes. But I don't stay there. They are not my shoes. What about the business people? How do you give away your profit?
Susan has made a very good point there, and she's already. We were diving now into general resolutions of the year, and if you're just joining us earlier on with this same panel, we were trying to see how, from a psychological point of view, why we're really losing a lot of our loved ones to our road accidents. What is currently on your screen, as you can see, is that road where that accident happened earlier today at 2:30 a.m. after a passenger bus and a bus trailer heading to Eldoret at 2:30 a.m. collided. At the beginning of the program, we reported that 30 people, at least 30 people, had died and 18 others were injured. They were rushed to the Provisional General Hospital. Right now, our Nakuru team can confirm that that number is now at 34. One man has succumbed to his injuries. 3 children have lost their lives from just that one accident that happened at 2:30 a.m. This is just 32 kilometers from Nakuru. And upon arrival, some of these victims had lost their lives at the Provisional Regional Hospital. This is at Miga, that road between Salga and Shachagwan. 32 kilometers from Nakuru. Earlier on, we spoke to Wanyama Musiumba, who is the Rift Valley Regional Coordinator, who was telling us, yes, despite the fact that we do not know yet the cause of the accident, he was putting it at the fact that the bus could have been speeding or the person behind it was tired. And then again, allow me to just repeat those numbers. 34 people have now lost their lives from 30, and that number could go up. 18 others have been injured. That is from an accident that happened today morning at 2:30 a.m. after a passenger bus hit a trailer at along the Miga Road, at Miga Road between Salga and Sachangwan, just 32 kilometers from Nakuru. When that accident happened earlier, Nakuru Red Cross confirmed that a few people were also trapped. Allow us to just show you those pictures again live from that specific area as they're trying to clean up the mess. Traffic is currently moving, and Wanyama, the Rift Valley Regional Coordinator, has asked for NTSA to continue to constantly be on that stretch and also put up more roadblocks within that area. This is a black spot. Quite a number of Kenyans have lost their lives on this specific highway. That is the Salga and Sachagwan. That accident happened at 2:30 a.m. 32 kilometers from Nakuru. And when we began the program, we reported at least 30 people had lost their lives. And now that number stands at 34, 3 of whom are children and were confirmed dead upon arrival at the Provisional General Hospital. One man has also succumbed to his injuries. And several other people were injured. We will be keeping our eye on this story as we broke it earlier on in the morning, rather. And we'll just continue back to the discussion. The pictures will stay live on your screens as you're seeing it. It's currently happening right now. But in panel with me here in studio, we were just earlier on, we were just discussing the whole issue of New Year. From this perspective, you've lost your loved one, and then you get to hear about this news that is currently happening right now. But now also, generally speaking, I'm sure that you have your own resolutions, your own goals. Frida, from an economic point of view, from an investor's point of view, what do we do wrong when it comes to our money goals?
Okay. I don't know whether it's so much about wrong or right. I think as I grow older, I'll use myself as an example, I've moved away from the New Year resolution thing. Because I know that at the end of every 12 months, a new year is going to come. So it's really settling down and, writing down what is your life mission? What do you want to achieve while you're here? What is your purpose? And purpose it's a discovery path. It's high time you discover it instead of going through this 12-month cycle thing that at the end of every 12 months, you're going to say, okay, 2017 is behind me, 2018 is ahead of me, and you think just by sleeping and walking into 2018, it's going to be better. It won't. Okay, so we need to stop that nonsense.
Yes, including with our money
first
aspect.
Of all. Yeah, so it starts with your life because money dictates what kind of life you're going to have. Yeah, because a lot of things, and I know there are people who say money doesn't make you happy, but I'm from the school of thought that says money can buy me ice cream, and ice cream makes me really happy.
Yes. I remember President Barack Obama saying, former U.S. president, that money is not everything, but it's important.
It's extremely important. Yeah. And you see, if you don't value money, then it won't come to you. You won't attract it. So as long as you keep saying money is not important, the people who have money are those people who are are selling drugs or in corruption or whatever, then your nice little mind will not allow you to have a plan to create wealth.
Caroline, that's the thing right there, what Frida has said.
Yeah.
It all begins from the mind.
Exactly.
Creating wealth, having a healthy aspect, going back to school. All these things start from here, the mind,
starts from the
and
mind.
attracting it to yourselves.
Yes.
Could you comment a little bit on that?
I mean, that's very powerful what she said, because your state is what acts as a magnet to attract that which serves you. So if you have this thought that money is not good, as she's saying, and it's evil and all that, that is the scenario you attract into your life.
Right.
Now, when we come to New Year resolutions, I think when people start on 31st or fast and say, I am going to do this and this, part of it is an acknowledgement that I am less, or I am not enough, or I am not, and that is what you attract the whole of the next year.
So from what I'm getting from you ladies is fine. Having your goals down is important in your resolution, but don't make it after a 12-month thing. Make it your life mission. So if you say, I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to have a healthy relationship with my money, a healthy relationship with my with those that I love, with my family, with my husband or wife, make it a life mission. So what you do is that you constantly, after every 4 months or whatever you want, you just check on yourself.
Quarters and you keep evaluating. Because what you don't evaluate, you can't improve
You can't,
on. So waiting until 31st December to evaluate, it's kind of, it will discourage you. So why not have a life mission? These are the things that, this is the theme for this year, this is what I want to achieve, and you evaluate it. Whether you have quarterly milestones, which you're going to evaluate again monthly. I like Susan said, they have to be specific, they have to be smart. Okay, so it's important that we move away from trying to think that things are going to change over because either we slept at an all-night prayer meeting and shouted hallelujah and there were prophecies said over our heads, and those things are fantastic. But it's high time we get in touch with our reality.
Right.
What is our current reality, and what is the new reality that we want to create, and what are we going to do about it?
Right. Susan, very many people might not be of the school of thought that if this is what I want to do with my life, it all starts here. So I wake up tomorrow morning and I've written on my list that I want to start going to the gym. It just doesn't happen like that. I have to constantly tell myself, it has to be written in the back of my mind. My subconscious has to be there in order to help me to achieve these goals. Talk to us about how for it to start in the mind, for it to then reflect on the outward is important.
Beautiful. There's a very simple theory we use in psychology. We call it ABC. But it's not the one that is used in HTS, where you talk about an activating event. You are attracting financial, maybe power. You have to desire the way to attract that to yourself. That's an event you want to see happen. We have the belief system. Now, that's where we talk about the way you think. If I think I'm not powerful enough to attract this financial wealth, believe you me, my C, which is the consequent behavior, will be me not doing something about it. And earlier on I had mentioned about people who say, I earn so little, I can't save. But it's encouraged from the financial perspective that if you can set aside 10%, like the same way you give to church for those who tithe, 10% of your income, that you're going to save it. So if I earn 500, can I take aside 5% of that? And the ones who are employed, the best way is to have a check-off system. And I like our university because unlike maybe this year and last year, they would help us save for our holidays. And you'd put away like 5,000. But what do we do in Kenya? Christmas is coming. And somebody asks you, by the way, do you have any plans? No. Can we go to Mombasa? Yes. You had not planned for it, right?
Why not?
This is it. This morning as I was coming this way, and my neighbor was telling me, oh, we had to come back from up country very fast. Why? Because when you go up country, they think people from the city, they have a lot of money. So he told me I go there like a politician with the 200, 100. So if I greet somebody, I give money. But had you planned for it?
Right.
So, and you find Kenyans complaining. I like your mind. When people say that, the people who have money are the politicians because they can ask for big salaries and allowances in parliament. They have the power. The people who have the money are the ones in Illuminati. But believe you me, and I'm a living example, coming from nothingness to something, yet not being corrupt. yet not having shortcuts. Because when you have shortcuts and you have money you have earned from shortcuts, believe you me, that's why you cannot board that matatu. Because you are afraid. So it's important that Kenyans need to know. And even keep saying the government, the government. I like it, Frida, that what can I do to empower myself financially? Most of the Kenyans are sitting on their talents. They are sitting on their purpose-driven lives that they have not taken seriously. And I guess that is where I'm saying education needs to start, even with our children. If you want your child to be financially wealthy tomorrow, teach them how to save as early as yesterday. If you want your family members also to be wealthy, teach them how to do it. Because I have seen most of the times we complain. Whites get surprised when they come here and they see how much we earn. Right? And they also see our big houses. Some of our big houses are economically a liability. Right? So we have not got into that level. And it's a culture we need to address from our children. So that we can have a generation that is making decisions, setting goals, and implementing those goals. Those policies that I have laid bare, in the government offices. Rwanda gets surprised. I'm a frequent visitor there because I love the way they're able to implement. And everybody takes their things seriously. So if you can also do that, and families to also know, don't set your goals alone as a husband. Don't do it as a wife alone. Can you involve the entire family?
Susan has said the perfect way to end the show, but very quickly, Caroline, very quickly, your closing remarks.
Well, we are human beings. So we are here to be. And first we be, and then we do. So first of all, analyze who you are, who you want to be, and then you'll get inspiration, ideas on what to do, and the motivation and the energy to pull through the inspirations.
Frida, very quickly.
I think we need to get in touch with our reality, especially when it comes to money. We need to get in touch with our reality. What is our income? What are our expenses? And what is our debt? And then create a plan. Nobody is going to come to rescue us. We are our own rescue plan, and we need to rise up and rescue ourselves.
All right. Ladies, thank you so much for coming in this morning to helping us discuss the whole idea of resolution. And hopefully, like we started off the show saying that those ones who have been affected by this specific accident that has happened this morning, and even throughout the year, will get the psychological help that they need. So then again, they can go with strength into 2018. Ladies, thank you so much. We want to close off the show, but before we do that, just a quick recap of our top story this morning, where at 2:30 a.m., a passenger bus and a